Hey everybody, I'm Steve Moore.
And I'm Mark Castleman.
We know the pain and heartbreak of porn and sex addiction.
And we know the triumph of breaking completely free.
Every day, we help our clients find hope and healing.
Join us in the fight to take back your life, your marriage, and be stronger than ever.
This is the PBSE Squared Podcast. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the PBSE Podcast, episode 290 specifically today. Can I ever have a healthy, intimate relationship with my addict partner without him sharing his past with me? Good topic.
Boy, do we have a lot to say about this one.
Yeah, it's a great one. This always gets our soapbox motor running a bit. When we and Mark were working on other things this morning after I was editing our couple session today from this morning from our Dare to Connect program for addict spouses and couples. And while I was doing that, Mark was putting together some of the production baseline stuff for the podcast. And he left a couple of slots open. He was like, I figured you'd have some things to say about this. And he was right, because we both are pretty passionate about it. But it's gonna be a good podcast. I'm gonna go ahead and this isn't a long submission, so I'll just read it quick. So you guys kind of have a context of what's going on here. But this is one of those submissions where probably just about everyone listening can relate to this. Okay. That's not the case all the time, but if you are here and you are struggling with intimacy in your relationship, even outside of sexual addiction, this podcast is for you. Okay. So this might be one you may even consider sending to friends who aren't dealing with sexual addiction or betrayal, because we're going to be doing a lot of just very much couples rooted work here. So here we go. And this does come from a partner to us. I have been listening to your podcast for the past several months since finding out my husband has a pornography addiction. I found it incredibly helpful in understanding what betrayal trauma is, what active recovery looks like, and what intimacy is and isn't. My partner also listens and has made big strides in his recovery. He has been sober for a month. He's going to therapy weekly, doing the 12 steps, engaging in morning meditation, checking in regularly. So obviously that we have a background that it's addiction related. And obviously addiction ties into this, as does betrayal, guys. But this is where connection, coupleship work starts, and this is where this would be of value to just about anybody. Although he has been more emotionally open, he still doesn't want to talk to me about his childhood or past before me. We've been together for, I'll leave out the time just for sake of detail, but less than a decade, but multiple years into the relationship. I know some of the things that he struggled with as he broke down the day after I threatened to leave him and he told me, quote unquote, everything at that point. I say everything with quotations, as I don't know any of the details. All I have is out of context statements made by a man that was in distress at the time. Now I want to know all the details about his past, as I want to understand him and the things he has struggled with. But he tells me his past is not his present or his future. Okay. He tells me he's working on himself every day to never be what he was in the past. However, I feel like I would never truly know him, but now I'm wondering if I need to. Can we have a healthy relationship? And this is our question. Can we have a healthy relationship without me never fully knowing the challenges he has had in his childhood and before me? So what we've got, so again, this is obviously a question that's rooted in a background of addiction, but here's where it's applicable to everyone. We have one partner for reasons, some of which Mark and I can probably assume just based on our experience in this, but some which we wouldn't attempt to, who is reluctant and hesitant to share about his past. It may be in a sexual context, although I get the impression that this is in other ways as well. So with origins with regard to his addiction, his upbringing, things or events, or maybe traumas, for example, he experienced that he's not comfortable sharing. Yeah. And so the substance of this question, right? Can a coupleship, well, obviously this is a betrayal dynamic, and so this couple is healing. But the real question here is, can relationships thrive? Can they succeed when information is held back? That's really the question, right?
That's the question, yeah. Yeah.
Can relationships thrive and succeed when information whether it's about one's past or present, is held back, not shared, not disclosed, etc. So let's talk about it.
Yeah. We're going to talk about a lot of the reasons why we can adopt this attitude of not sharing the past. I have a lot to say about that. But let's talk about let's just talk about what is true intimacy.
Mm,
What is that? Right? Because Steve, virtually everyone that we've ever worked with, and you and I felt this way. What do we yearn and crave and long for if we start to have the ability to get in tune with it and express it? We want to be truly intimate. We
yeah.
don't mean to have sex, right? Everybody can have sex, but to have true intimacy. What does it mean to see into another person and be seen by another person? What does it mean to know another and to be known? Right? What is that?
Yeah. Oftentimes when I am talking with clients, because they are coming in with a background of sexual addiction or trauma or whatever, I'll try to kind of break the ice a little bit. I'll read the room, and if it's appropriate, I'll sometimes kind of make that link, right? Because as Mark indicated, there is anyone who comes into my office clearly knows their way around sexuality, at least on some level. That's why they're coming to see me. And so I'll make the correlation, right? Because it's no secret, sex can be the highest form of physical intimacy. Now, sex isn't always intimacy, but it can be,
That can be.
right? It can be.
Mhm.
And so I will bring up frequently with a couple, right? Clearly, we are having you guys are coming to me with issues around sex and what is sex, and we'll break it down, right? What are the things that make a healthy sexual experience? And usually, as we go through that, one of the conditions for a healthy sexual experience is the disrobing process, right? I am exposing myself in a physical way to my partner, and we share oftentimes in D2C, and we talked about it on the podcast before how the sexual act in many ways is very physically emblematic of what occurs on the emotional spectrum in intimacy,
Or what
and
could? What
or
could?
what could, right? And such is the case here. In other words, I will ask an addict and a partner, what does it look like for the two of you to be emotionally naked with each other?
Mm.
Clearly you have experience on the physical side. What does that look like emotionally? What does it mean to get emotionally naked with another person? And I like that phrasing for a couple of reasons. Again, it's a good segue from the sexual realm, but the other reason is because it's very not just physically emblematic, but actually accurate of what happens. If I am going to get to know another person, it requires them to whatever degree we want the relationship to go in terms of depth, for them to, over time and in the right setting and when appropriate, begin to emotionally disrobe with me, to share parts of themselves with me that they would not share in every situation or every circumstance. And the more that relationship progresses, so does the disrobing, and vice versa. If I want someone to know me, the real Steve, beyond therapist Steve, or now that's kind of weird because therapist Steve sort of is pretty emotionally naked, as is Mark, therapist Mark. We're kind of unique in that regard. We have a lot of colleagues who would not only be hesitant to approach this kind of stuff the way that we do, but some would probably say it's downright not good to do. But we are who we are. So, say la vie. But I would say, but like, for example, if I was working in a workplace and we all have different hats that we wear, and intimacy on the emotional spectrum is where is the degree to which we stop wearing hats and we start just being who we are in different situations, right? And that's all, and different levels of that are appropriate in different situations. But with a partner, we talk about often on here how the emotional, physical, and every other side of intimacy in terms of connection with a committed partner should be where all elements, we talk about 8 of them in the D2C program, all 8 elements, that is where they apex and coalesce in their highest form, or should, right? There's
Yeah.
the most disrobing physically, there's the most disrobing emotionally, there's the most exchange and sharing, not just of me being able to see them, but them to see me. In other words, if I want to be truly intimate with my partner, if I want to dial up the dial of being intimate, not just physically, but emotionally, I need to let him see the Tweety Bird tattoo on my thigh that I got when I was not making good judgment calls, right? And what can that look like? maybe that's something really embarrassing that I've done in the past. Maybe that's something that I really regret. Maybe it's something that happened to me, but because I've been scared or ashamed or embarrassed about it, I am hesitant, and understandably so, and maybe appropriately so. I am hesitant or reluctant or even unwilling to share that with most people.
With most people,
Right.
right? But now we start to talk about what is this relationship to you,
Yeah.
right? When we made our vows, when we gave one another to each other, and we vowed to be exclusive, we vowed to be faithful, we vowed to stick with each other through thick and thin, right? What is the depth of that commitment? What is the depth of that vision? And I would say that it is inextricably linked to my willingness and openness to be seen and to see my partner.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I control that intimacy dial, and
Yes.
very much dependent on how much of myself I show. Right? They are linked.
Well, and Mark, perhaps you could talk a little bit because I've already talked a ton here. I have to regulate myself on topics like this because I'll just talk the whole bloody podcast. Like, what would be some of the barriers, Mark, that you see most commonly with this when it comes to either clients you've worked with or with yourself? Like, what usually gets in the way of this getting emotionally naked for you or for
Well,
people?
I mean, we have this further on in our outline today, but let's just hit this right now. There's a lot of reasons why we hesitate or shy away from being seen and known. And I'll tell you what the big one was for me for a very long time. It was fear,
Mm,
horrible fear, right? If anybody knows me for who I truly am, they will never accept me.
yeah.
They'll never think of me the same way. My reputation will be completely shot and completely destroyed. So I must do what? I must not just hide, but I must control and regulate and massage and manipulate how much I show of myself, what I show, so that I can do what? Control people's perceptions of me. And if I can do that, then I can regulate what? My level of worth, my level of belonging, my level of importance.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm really trying to regulate by controlling, by very carefully guarding what I allow others to see, because it's inseparably connected to my sense of worth and value and importance. So
Mm,
I have to control it, regulate it, right?
yeah.
It needs to be meted out in very careful portions with exactly the right delivery, the right impression that's gained, right? That was life and death for me for decades.
Well, and those of us in addiction, I mean, every addict that I have ever worked with, and I don't use the every phrase often, but I'm not being facetious when I say that. Literally every addict I have ever worked with in my career, including myself, most especially myself, are absolute toxic masters at what we're talking about right now.
Gosh, right?
For most of us addicts, the acting out and the secrecy of that is definitely something, but the real one could easily just, I mean, I look back on the amount of energy I used to devote to how I appeared to people as an addict, how much work I put into not just having people not see my addiction, but to see me as someone completely opposite of that. It,
Full-time
I could
job.
have easily cultivated like an affair with someone else and with just what I used to do with that around pornography before my addiction progressed in other ways. It may as well have been an affair of some sort because it was a part-time freaking job
It was a
doing
full-time
that.
job for me. It was 24/7. It was the number one priority period in every interaction and everything I said, everything I did. You must control how you're perceived. You
You're
must.
you're trying to keep track of the lies you've told before
Oh,
and how do you stay consistent with that and who am I wanting to be and how do I hide what I'm really feeling? I
yeah.
mean, it's just like it's never ending.
How much did I show to that person? And how much did I hold back? And okay, I got to be that person with them now. I mean, it is exhausting,
It is.
right? So that fear, that risk, that running to what we perceive of being safe, big part of why we don't get emotionally naked with a partner.
Yeah.
No one's lack of skills. We don't know how. No one showed it to us. In fact, we saw just the opposite. I hear it in this partner's submission about her addict partner in recovery. What does he say? The past is the past. Leave it alone, right? How did I hear that growing up? We don't expose our dirty laundry. We don't show our skeletons in the closet,
Mhm.
right? Leave that alone. I'm all about what's right now. That's all that matters, right? And you can hear that in what he's saying. Just let it go. I'm working on me now. That's all that matters.
Mhm.
So this lack of skills, personalities, we might be very introverted by our nature, and so we tend to not be very open and show much of ourselves, right? By the nature of who we are and how we've developed over time. Our upbringing and cultural traditions, like I just said, right? You don't reveal this stuff.
Mhm.
That's my family's motto. And if we were
Yeah.
to reveal anything about ourselves to anyone outside the family, man, you had consequences quick.
Mm.
How dare you, right?
Yeah. Well, and to a lesser degree, I didn't. It wasn't as extreme in my family, but I mean, this would happen in little ways often, right? So, for example, I can't count how many times like we would go to church on Sundays, right, as a family, and I can't tell you how many times like right before church we're all killing each other. Like me and my sisters are like beating the crap out of each other while we're driving over to the church. My dad's probably threatening us all, not in an abusive way, but in a you all better not act out. And then as soon as we get out of the car, happy, smiling, we love each
Yeah.
other. Everyone's outfits are
Yeah.
color coordinated,
Oh yeah.
right?
You, you sort of going like a bunch of monks into
Nobody knew it was literally a civil war at the Moore household like 5 minutes ago, right?
That's so true. It's so true. All about how you're perceived.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. So this can happen in
Yeah,
lots of ways,
lots
right?
of ways. Those are all barriers.
Now let's do talk about because we have other podcasts that talk about the rejection piece and all that, and that's probably not the focus today because we want to get to this partner's question. But she's, and what this addict says is interesting. Okay, my past is not my present or my future.
Hmm.
Now, is that the truth? I would say technically yes, or it doesn't have to be at least. But
Well,
yeah, go ahead. Go
and I
ahead.
would say I completely utterly disagree with this guy. Because if you were to ask me what is my present in this moment, it is the summation of everything I have experienced and everything I have been and done in my past is
I could see
right
that.
now manifesting in me in this moment. I can't
Mm.
separate them. What I am right now is my past and will have enormous impact on my future.
Well, and that right there, I would absolutely disagree with, or not disagree with, agree with, because I think that's 100% true. We do now. I'll just want to kind of get ahead of what this partner in some ways is probably saying, and what many addicts are probably wondering. Okay, so is holding stuff back then, Steve? Is that bad? I'm sure I can just I that's what I'd be asking
Yeah.
if I was listening to this
Yeah.
podcast in the past. And I'll tell you my take on that. It truly is not about being a question of good or bad.
No, it's not.
And we're going to talk about that more. Okay, so just hold on to that thought for a minute.
Yeah.
But for example, most of you know, I mean, part of my background is I'm a two-time cancer survivor. Okay, so I had leukemia, a rare form of leukemia when I was a kid, not once but twice. We had it once, got put into remission around the age of 8, and then of course 2 years later it showed back up again. Okay, now I have been cancer-free for 30 years. That's pretty awesome. 10 years, statistically speaking, is when most cancer patients, regardless of the type of cancer, are considered quote unquote cured as much as one can be. Technically, it's long term remission, but statistically, the odds of it returning become so small that that's where they kind of move towards the definition of it. Okay. Now, setting aside the fact that that cancer could return, which is always a possibility, um, even taking that out of the equation, I am no longer a cancer patient. But does the fact that I was a cancer patient still impact me today? Guys, that was 30 years ago. Right now, I'll just be very transparent with all of you. I have to do testosterone therapy. Why? Because total body radiation literally nuked my testicles in a literal sense. Okay? Certain structures in my body don't work properly. Doctors highly suspect that because I'm a diabetic that it stems from that, right? I have to keep regular checks on certain organs in my body right now because there have been studies long term that show that the likelihood of me developing other kinds of cancers in those structures is off the chart astronomical because of the treatments radiation and otherwise that I received as a child. Those things absolutely that happened 3 decades ago very much impact who I am today.
Absolutely.
They
Today.
impact how I show up on the day to day. They impact Brittany and I's ability. They impacted Brittany's and I's ability to have children. We used a different we use different methodologies to have biological children. They very much impact they impact the way I've approached my whole life, ranging from getting life insurance at an early age to things that I do with my finances now to preparations that I make down the road. Right? All of those things are greatly influenced by things that happened to me for 4 years while I was 8 years old. And such is the case with all of us who have been, whether it's addiction or trauma or whatever we have been through and experienced, even if it is in our distant past, and even if we have healed from it. That's why I use the cancer example. I'm no longer a cancer patient, haven't been in 30 years. But that does not change that there were things that happened that fundamentally altered aspects of my life going forward.
Well, let me
And it
tell
isn't
you,
just, it isn't good or bad. It just is.
let me tell
Right.
you why another aspect of what Steve is saying, why this is so critical. Steve, if I were to ask you as a therapist, have you ever been able to treat a guy with addiction and have him become truly sober, healthy, connected, et cetera, without a thorough exploration of his past? Have you ever seen a guy
No,
get completely better?
no, because long-term resolution from addiction doesn't mean stopping acting out. Right. A lot of contrary to popular belief, a lot of people who don't operate outside the recovery world, and frankly, some professionals who don't know what they're talking about. That's how they look at it. Addiction is manifested by these behaviors. So if we get rid of those behaviors, then he's good.
Yep. And let me
Not the
tell you
truth.
where this caused me, oh man, a couple of decades of absolute excruciating struggle. I am going to get sober. I'm going to stop acting out. I'm going to stop accessing porn. I'm going to stop these sexual behaviors. And once that's done, I will be good to go and we will move forward.
Yeah.
I would get sober using tools, using techniques, using a lot of things we talk about. And then lo and behold, what would happen? It would always come back. There would always be relapse. And I had the same approach that this guy has, understandably. The past is the past. It was painful enough to go through it once. I'm not revisiting it. But as long as I held that attitude, I continued on the relapse cycle
Yeah.
until, and it was a giant mystery to me. Why does this keep happening? Why can't I leave this alone? Why do I keep going back? And it wasn't until I was open and willing to answer the question that we talk about so much in this program, our Dare to Connect all the time. What's under this? What are the driving forces? Addiction is a symptom. What are the deep down causes? And finally, when I was willing to go back and look at my childhood and my teenage years and just get all that out into the open, then I started to make real progress and to heal. Those early wounds had to be healed, looked at, right? Confronted. Now they're an amazing reference tool for me. When I'm having a tough day, which I still do, when I feel different kinds of triggers for different kinds of old reactions, what do I immediately reference? Oh, I know what that is. When I was 5 years old, da 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 happened. Or when this was the case, this is what I experienced. It's
Yeah.
this marvelous reference tool that's right there at my fingertips that removes mystery and brings understanding. And that's the same case for our partners, isn't it, Steve? What
Absolutely.
if my wife didn't know anything about my past? And then she sees my behaviors in addiction, or not just addiction, just my behaviors in the relationship at large. And she knows nothing of my past or the details. What's she going to think about how I'm behaving in this moment?
Yeah. Well, of course, it's going to be assigned to all different things. I mean, I was having this very conversation with a client just a week ago. Now, I was being a little bit casual in this session. I've known this guy for a long time, but I'll just tell you how it happened. We
Mm.
were talking about this very thing, and I asked the guy the same question that I asked Mark. If my wife were to experience all of the things that she experienced with me, in addiction, my emotional volatility, throwing things in the house, not never being physically violent with her, but being physical around her, right? Getting all aggressive, all the things that I used to do, treating her the way that I would, right? If I did all those things by myself and it was absent any sort of context, how do you think I'd look to Brittany? And I'll just call him Joe. And I said, "How do you think I'd come off?" He looked at me and he's very direct with me too. He's like an asshole. I'm like, exactly. I'm like, absolutely. I would come off like someone who just hates his wife.
Yeah.
That's not true.
No.
There were complex reasons why Brittany, for one example, and I know Mark's talked about this too, this is one of the really sad realities. I had all these emotions inside me that had to go somewhere, and frankly, no one else was safe. And so I took Brittany's vulnerability and I weaponized it. I
Yeah.
fueled all that at her.
Yes.
Now, let's be clear. That in no way makes it okay. This is very much a discussion that has to be capstoned with we're talking about reasons and context, not excuses or a minimization of accountability.
Yeah.
How
No.
I treated my wife, how we addicts have treated our spouses, how Mark treated his spouse, 100% unacceptable, deplorable, not okay in any context. And knowing the background behind that doesn't make it any better. But can that play a critical role in a partner going through it?
Yes.
It played a critical role for Brittany. If she were here, I'd love to bring her on and she could talk about it. We've had many discussions about this because do I still have to be accountable for that? Of course. But for her healing, what is she actually healing from? What she's supposed to be healing from, which is the fact that I have been wounded, hurt, harmed by this man who is hurting me because he's been hurt.
That's right.
As opposed to I have to somehow become okay with the fact that my husband hates me.
Yeah.
Which is not the case.
My husband's just a lunatic, a psychopath.
Yeah, I'm married to someone who's just nuts.
He despises me. That's why he behaves this way.
Do you guys see the difference? We want to make that really clear. Again, it's reasons, not excuses. Reasons will never be excuses, but they do give context, which can play an absolutely critical role, not just in your healing, but potentially in your partner's when and if they're ready to be able to hear that information, which is a complex discussion.
My wife and I use, I haven't called it this till today, but I'm going to use this phrase from now on. My wife and I use our histories that we have chosen to reveal to each other. She's let me see her at a deep level. I've let her see me at a deep level. We know each other at deep levels. We use that knowledge as a reference tool every day in our relationship. Why? Because we don't just look at the outward symptoms of our behaviors or our words or our attitudes towards each other, which again doesn't make it okay if it's toxic or harmful, but we have a reference tool to immediately tap into. I know something of what's behind this. It doesn't make it all right, but at least I have reference. I have context. And that helps me know better how to go forward with regard to what's taking place. Now, I'm going to state very authentically and firmly that this is not acceptable. And my wife does that with me. It's not acceptable what you're saying or doing right now, but I understand a part of where it's coming from. And that better equips me to know what to do next.
Absolutely.
Imagine if that reference tool doesn't exist. I mean, look what you've removed from the relationship when that's not available.
Sure.
It's
Absolutely.
huge.
Absolutely. And guys, that can apply in so many different contexts across the board. So kind of going back to this then. So the question, right, is because what does this spouse ask? Can we have a healthy relationship without me never fully knowing the challenges he had in his childhood and before me? So what is the answer to that? I would say that I mean, first of all, is it okay for an addict or a spouse to not share things with another person? I don't know that it's a question of okay or not, because there are all sorts of reasons and safety questions associated with that. But what we can tell you is that the level and the depth to which we choose to share with a partner creates or dissipates the glass ceiling to which the depth of that the relationship can operate.
That's correct.
That is fundamentally true.
Yeah, you had a great phrase here in our notes, Steve. You said you get to choose. You get to choose the level or depth to which you will allow another person to see and know you. That's your choice. but you can't have your cake and eat it too. What did you mean?
Yes. I cannot expect a fully connected, fully intimate, fully embraced and embracing relationship with my partner if they don't know me. Why? Because my partner cannot embrace or reject what they don't know.
Yes.
And every addict, well, not every addict, most of us addicts know what that is like. I always prided myself in being very open with Brittany in my addiction, and then I was, especially when it came to the behavioral and the acting out piece. But I didn't even have an understanding of fully what was going on, much less was I sharing it with her.
It's true. You didn't even know yet.
And so there were elements of that Brittany couldn't embrace until we got further into the process because she didn't even know what they were.
Yeah.
Right? She can't if I haven't going back to my example at the beginning, right? This emotional disrobing, if I haven't taken that piece of cloth off yet, or that piece of, emotional I haven't disrobed in that way, she can't, if I haven't shown her the Tweety Bird tattoo, yes, does that protect me? Does that protect me from her laughing at it and making fun of it? Yeah. What does it also prevent? For her to be able to say, gosh, that must have a story behind it. I'd like to understand you more.
Yeah. I want to know you. Yeah,
Or now having known it, I respect you more,
yeah,
or I get
exactly.
you better, or I love you more because of that and what that represents. That's what it prevents. You don't get one side without the other. So we can dial down the dial, and in certain situations and relationships, that is appropriate. Like we started at the beginning here. Most people do not live like Mark and Steve, where we walk around just talking about, like today, I'm talking about health conditions. Most people would not do that. We're kind of like weird that way. It's a part of who we are and our own healing, and that's a whole other discussion for another time. But that is not what the average person can or ought to be doing all the time. There are times, places, and situations for that, and appropriately so. But we always have to recognize that if I limit what I'm sharing with another person, that will mitigate their ability to hurt me. It's true. They can't reject what they don't know, but they also can't accept it.
They also can accept what they don't know.
Yep.
And my addict brain ran with that one, let me tell you. Because my wife would accept me and embrace me and show love to me. But when I had not been transparent in sharing my past, what did my addict brain say? She's only behaving this way toward me because she doesn't really know me.
Yeah.
And man, did that keep a shame room in my brain. Nothing she did would be accepted by me in my heart of hearts because I knew that she only did it because she didn't know me, the full me.
Yes.
And as long as I withheld the full me, I withheld full acceptance from my wife.
100%.
Can't have it.
100% agree with that.
Yep. Can't do it. Now, there's something that really jumped out at me. This partner didn't reveal any of this, but if this guy's having weekly therapy and he's active in a 12-step group, has he not been engaging and exploring his past with his therapist in depth? Has he done a step 1 inventory, a step 4 inventory? All of these things involve deep exploration into your past. So if he hasn't been doing that with these professionals and with these groups, that needs to change very quickly. Sure. And if he has been doing this deep work, is he decided to just completely withhold all of that from his partner?
Yeah.
These are some important questions.
They are. And again, we don't know the context. We don't know what's going on, where he's at. I mean, the information shared or not being shared could be that as such for a whole bunch of reasons that are absent the context here. So we can't speak to that. But what we can definitely speak to is can you, so answering her question, can you have a good relationship? Yeah, you can.
Sure.
Will it be able to be as deep as it could be? No.
No.
That's the truth.
Not possible.
That's the truth. Could you have a good? Yeah, absolutely, you can. It's not like if some of these things don't get shared. Now again, we don't know what they are exactly, but does that just mean a relationship is toast if some things that aren't game changing aren't shared? Not necessarily, but it is a missed opportunity for connection to whatever degree that thing represents.
It is. So as we finish up, let's say that you decide as a coupleship, we do want to go deep. We do want to know each other because we want that level of intimacy. We see what you guys are talking about. Okay, we do want it. We're willing to take the risk. We're willing to walk into the uncomfortable. So now what? Well, the first thing I would immediately put out to this coupleship is, have you talked with your therapist about the formal disclosure process?
Yeah.
That's got to be talked about, right? The formal disclosure process is his disclosure, her impact letter, right? Then the amends and the plan going forward. And we've talked in other podcasts about the absolute essential nature of a formal disclosure process and everything it means to recovery, healing, mending a relationship. I mean, the list of benefits is off the charts. So what is the formal disclosure process for this coupleship?
Well, we will tell you without hesitation that you gain it by if you as always, if you like the podcast and you elect to try the 2 week free trial of Dare to Connect, um, I believe it's at 6 months, Mark, right? Is that right?
Did 3 months.
Is it 3 months?
Yes.
That's right. It was originally, and then we moved it. After 3 months of time in the Dare to Connect program, you gain access to what we know is the only uh walkthrough tutorial about how to prepare for a formal disclosure of its kind.
It's like
It's video,
24 modules that are
yep,
all close to an hour each.
literally nearly 30 hours of training and preparation about how to do that. Now, you need to have professionals involved in order to do that individually, but that training course can get you ready or as ready or more ready than anything else we know of worldwide resource wise out there.
Yeah, it's a great.
And that's just one benefit of the program, obviously, but that's something we'd encourage you to take a look at.
This
Now,
couple says they're having daily check-ins.
yeah.
What do those look like? How much is being shared? How
Yeah,
much
what's the depth on those?
much of yourselves are you allowing the other to see? And then the crucial part for this guy, and not just for this guy, but also partners, are you doing the personal preparation work through journaling, through meditation, through engaging with a higher power, are to then be more open and more willing to be able to be intimate with your partner?
Yep.
Doesn't just happen automatically. There's a lot of prep
Yeah.
goes into to going to that place with a partner.
If you're going to share that Tweety bird tattoo that you got when you were drunk, on your thigh at, 15, metaphorically speaking, what do you have to be aware of? Any clothes that you have that are covering it up from people and why they're there. You have to be aware of the context. You have to be aware of the impact that had on you, and you have to be okay. You have to become okay with the narrative behind it too.
Yeah,
All
exactly.
that work has to be done if that kind of sharing is going to happen, right?
And then
So,
and then you can ease your way into this process. If you're going to emotionally undress and get naked with your partner, there are ways to kind of dip your toe in the water and become more skilled and more comfortable with that. One-on-one work with your therapist about exploring the past.
yep.
Group work in your 12-step organization to begin sharing with others about your past. And Steve has here in the notes, D to C friggin' C.
D to friggin' C.
D to
Dare to
friggin'
freaking
C.
connect. Get your butts into Dare to Connect, guys. Like, one of the many beautiful things about the Dare to Connect program that I think people don't realize when they come into it is that it is a you get what you out of it program, which is true of many things. But it is you get to you control the dial on how much you want to be involved in it.
And the
How
cool
much
part is all of your interactions in our live sessions is all anonymous.
correct.
So you,
Exactly.
you can be transparent and talk about your past in ways you never would have dared to do before because you don't know any of these people, nor do they know you.
Absolutely. It opens the gates and allows you a practice forum, a crucible, whatever you want to call it. It does now, but will so even more as we add other opportunities for you to connect with addicts between sessions and partners between sessions, to practice all of the things that we're talking about here. We don't know of a better resource on the planet, guys, resource wise, finance wise, and otherwise than Dare to Connect. If we did, we would have made it, but we don't. That's why we made this one.
Yeah.
If you like what you hear on the podcast, daretoconnectnow.com. Come get a trial and give it a shot. See where Dare to Connect can meet you in your recovery and enhance it wherever you are. If you're brand new in this, in the thick of it, and the shit has hit the fan, we can help de-shit your fan. If you are in a place where you have been doing this for years and you're looking for something maintenance-wise that is financially viable, probably a third of our subscribers are here for that reason.
Yeah.
It's that and everything in between. Come join us at daretoconnectnow.com and grab a trial, okay? We'd love to
Well,
see you there.
and finishing up on this topic, what's one of the feedbacks we get from our D2C people, Steve, all the time? I never dreamed that my partner and I could have intimacy at this level.
Yes.
You've shown us
Absolutely.
how to become to see each other, to me to see her and her to see me. We never dreamed we could go to this level.
I think that came in just last week, and we've heard it many times before, but that was, it's always
Yep.
great to hear
So
that. So come
over.
join us. Come join us. Guys, we love you. We appreciate you as always. If you'd like to send in submissions to the podcast and get responses or feedback from us, I call it snail mail, meaning within the next 1 to 2 months. You can obviously always send those to us if you go to that same website, daretoconnectnow.com. Click on the PBSE podcast logo up at the top, and there's a contact form at the bottom of that page that you can send those in to us. Or just grab your 2-week free trial and come get answers on Monday. We would love to have you do that. So
there you go.
In a live interactive fashion. So
yeah. All right, guys. Hey, have a great rest of your day. Appreciate and love all of you. We'll see you on our next episode.
Bye-bye.
Everything expressed on the PBSE podcast are the opinions of the hosts and the participants and is for informational and educational purposes only. This podcast should not be considered mental health therapy or as a substitute thereof. It is strongly recommended that you seek out the clinical guidance of an individual qualified mental health professional. If you're experiencing thoughts of suicide, self-harm, or a desire to harm others, please dial 911 or go to your nearest emergency room.